Hi, everyone. I wanted to talk to you today about something that's kind of connected to anxiety. Sometimes, it's not always, but anxiety can sometimes be connected to depression, and it can happen in different ways. Anxiety can lead to depression because that constant worry and fear and sadness that are going on with all of those thoughts that are uncomfortable and unpleasant lead to sort of a hopeless, exhausted feeling like, oh, it's never going to get better, like I'm just going to be like this. And then it becomes sort of just a bunch of cycle of negative thoughts that don't feel good, which can really bring your mood down for quite a long time. So that's how anxiety can lead to depression. But sometimes when someone has depression, that can trigger anxiety because when you're feeling down on yourself all the time, then you start worrying about that and what am I going to do? And so it can go the other way. And sometimes they happen together. And they are what I think is called comorbid, which just means that they are kind of like two diagnoses at the same time or two things that are happening at the same time. I just wanted you to realize that those things could, like anxiety can turn into or lead to depression. Depression can cause you to be anxious, or they could be happening at the same time. And this is going along with that two-screen method that we've been talking about for several different episodes, where the side screen is showing us anxious things that help all the things that we should be worried about. Then last week, 2 weeks ago, we talked about how the side screen can show us things that could be a destructive habit, like things that we might want to do to feel better, but things that are not good for us. Whether it's telling us to do something like eat something, drink something, take a drug, watch pornography, gamble, shop too much, those kinds of things. But also it can tell us not to do stuff to make us feel better, like stay in bed all day, don't go to the gym, don't leave your house, don't go to school, those kinds of things that also are destructive habits in a way too. So today I'm talking to you about how the side screen can also be like a depressive screen. It can show us all the mistakes we've made, all the times when things didn't go well in our lives, and then we start like paying attention to that, about how terrible everything has been, how we're a victim of everything. And also then we start thinking that the future doesn't look very possible or very hopeful, because if all these other bad things have happened to us and we deserve it, or there's something wrong with us, then the future also is probably just more of that. And so the depressive screen is showing us those kinds of things. And just like we need to redirect away from that screen to something that's positive and the things that we love in front of us, the same thing happens with the depressive screen. We need to be able to redirect from it. But one thing I want you to know about the depressive screen is that it's a little bit trickier. You know, when we were talking about the anxious screen and the destructive urges screen, it's pretty bright and it really gets our attention, and it's like, hey, you know, these are the things that are going on, whether these are all the things that you should worry about, like it causes an energy inside of you, or here are the urges. I want to get you to do these things that are going to make you feel better in the moment, but are probably not good for you. And that's kind of gives you an energy too, because then you're like, oh, I want to do it. No, I don't want to do it, and whatever. But the depressive screen almost brings your energy down. It starts making you feel really tired, and it's very quiet. It's whispering to you. So think about what the depressive screen is whispering to you. You're a loser. No one likes you. You're never going to get a romantic partner because you don't deserve one. You're a bad person because something's wrong with you. And you almost don't realize that you're paying attention to that until your energy is really low and you just really start feeling hopeless or helpless maybe in that situation. People who are depressed just want those painful thoughts and painful feelings to go away. And they don't realize that there is a way to redirect and manage them. And they just kind of get caught up in these thought errors, which is what is happening over here. And they don't know that they can actually think differently. I have worked in mental health for many years and studied psychology and mental health in college. And it still wasn't until about 5 years ago that I really realized how much control I have over my thoughts. And that's when I started really teaching thought work and how to redirect and reframe your thoughts, because it is the thing that can get you out of so many different low moods and low thought patterns. And as I've studied thought errors, every person comes up with a different number, like the top 10 thought errors or 15 or 17 or 20. And so today I just want to talk to you about 6 thought errors that are kind of like the main ones, because I want you to be aware of them. And I've actually talked about them in other episodes, and I didn't go back and look to see which numbers they are. So maybe in the show notes, I'll put like what other episodes you could listen to that are similar to tell you more about thought errors. Because I probably did 10 maybe in the thought error episode that I did. But today I want to talk to you about 6. And that way, once you know what they are and you can spot them, then you can start to do something about them. Anytime we're aware of something, we can start working on it. And so I just want you to be aware that when you're depressed, it's probably about a thought error that you're believing. And when you know what they are, you can start countering them in a different way. So these thought errors and the feelings that they produce are exhausting. You just don't feel like doing anything because it sort of zaps your energy, and you just feel like you want to stay in bed or you want to hide. But when you go inward into your mind and you're hiding away from people, then it's even easier for that to take over your life and your feelings and your thoughts, because then you don't have anything distracting you or taking you away from all of those depressive thoughts and feelings. And that's why in the other episodes, when we talked about healthy distractions and ways to redirect yourself from that side screen, you're still going to use those techniques that we've already talked about that are going to help you redirect away from there. But now we're also going to be looking at what thought errors are happening and then how to counter those. Just for an example, to show you how your thoughts can create or take away energy, think about if you're thinking about, my life is fun, I'm so smart, I have amazing friends. You just feel good and you have a higher energy and you're in a pleasant mood when you think things like that. But if you're thinking things like, I'm a loser, I'm dumb, I won't ever find a romantic partner, then you just feel, just saying those things makes my energy feel lower, and it just feels awful inside of me. And so it can be, I'm not saying that changing your thoughts is easy, but it is as easy as changing your thoughts to something that feels better. And you are 100% in control of what you think. Now, some of those thoughts may automatically come up, but once you realize that these thought errors are happening, you can just turn it around. So the first thought error I want to talk to you about is all or nothing thinking. So this is thinking that the world is either all good or all bad. You are a success or you're a failure. This thought error is often associated with perfectionism. And remember, perfectionism is one of the mindsets that create anxiety. So see how these things can be connected together. It could be thinking, I'll never be good enough to play on a team. I should just quit soccer altogether. Or a B, that's basically an F. I must be failing science completely. And I have a lot of my clients that they get a bad grade on one thing, or they have one missing assignment and they're just like, oh, well, I'm just failing this class. And then later they'll look and they're not really failing the class. And sometimes that one missing assignment or that one low grade really doesn't affect things. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't want to not care about how you do on any of the things, but just taking one instance and saying, oh, I have this one bad grade, so then everything's terrible, or I have this amazing grade, I don't have to do anything else. Like either of those is probably not good. So most of the time when we are caught in all or nothing thinking, we're also using words like always or never. And that cannot be true. There is never any instances in our life where something is always happening or never happening. We can always find instances where one of, the always or never idea is not true. So challenge those always or never thoughts, or that I'm either a success or I'm a failure. And what is the gray area in between? What could be happening if you have one bad grade? What can you do? Look at your overall grade, and did it really affect it? And does it really mean that this is the end of the world? Which I would say 99% of the time is never the truth. And focus on your progress towards something that you want. And think about it as, if I'm not winning, I'm learning. So take all setbacks and challenges as just a learning experience, a problem-solving expedition that you could go on. Then there's overgeneralization, and that just means that you're making a judgment or a statement about everything based on one event. It sort of seems a little bit similar to all or nothing, but so you might think, well, that girl yelled at me, so she's a terrible person. She had one time where she wasn't pleasant, and now that just means that she's all terrible. Or they didn't hire me for this job, so I'll never get a job. So one instance of something not working right, that just means everything's not going to work right. So over generalizing on something. Or I made a mistake on my math test, that mistake, and now I'm terrible at math. I find that most of my clients that aren't doing the best in a subject, there are areas of the subject that they are good at. They're just not good at all of the chapters, especially like in math and chemistry. It seems like there's different chapters that they're like, oh, I totally get this. And then the next chapter, they're like, oh, I don't understand this. But it's never always that they don't understand it. And so just look at the times and the things that you are doing well and build on that. Or also thinking, one person doesn't like my outfit, everybody hates how I dress. Like, see, that doesn't make any sense. So when you notice that you're overgeneralizing, you're taking one situation and making it mean everything about everything that's going to happen, try to find all the ways that it's not true. Try to find the evidence for how that's not the case. So if someone yelled at you, instead of thinking they're just all terrible, think about what are all the reasons why someone might yell at you. Like maybe something's going on with them and it has nothing to do with you. And almost always it doesn't have anything to do with you. Or if you don't get a job, one job, there are billions of jobs in the world. This one job is just microscopic in the scheme of, or in the picture of a billion jobs. So, you didn't get this job. Okay, you're going to try the next job. Focus on what is going right and what feels good about situations and not just all the things that are bad. Then there's confirmation bias, and that means that we're looking for evidence to confirm what we already believe. And then we don't notice or pay attention to evidence that contradicts our idea. And so this is like saying, no one likes me, I don't have any friends, or thinking no one likes me, I don't have any friends. And then you're in the day walking around, and every time somebody ignores you or somebody laughs about something, you're like, oh, see, those people don't like me, I don't have any friends. And if you're thinking things like, I do have friends, then you will start looking for evidence. Your brain will start looking for evidence of where you do have a friend. We'll see this person's nice. We'll see this person laughed at my joke. See, this teacher was good to me or whatever. So it's really good to sort of steer our thoughts in the direction of what we want so that we can start looking for evidence that that could be true, or that we do have friends, or that we are funny, or that we are going to get a romantic partner. So just purposely seek out evidence to show the things that you want to have in life, because that then your brain will be using its confirmation bias, which it automatically has, and you're going to be searching for the things that you do want. So anytime that you notice that you're like pretty negative, think about, okay, what is my brain right now looking for, and what can I make it look for in response to that? I had a girl who told me once she didn't belong at college, like the college that she was in. She was like, I don't belong here. And she was telling me all the reasons why she doesn't belong. And I said, well, let's think about, tell me all the reasons you do belong there. And then her brain started looking for all the ways she fit in, and then she was totally fine. So then there's jumping to conclusions, or mind reading, and that's just making a conclusion about someone without all the evidence. So if you say hi to someone who walks by you and they just keep on walking, and you're thinking, well, she doesn't like me. Well, what are all the reasons why somebody might not answer you and just walk by? Maybe they didn't hear you. So often when people first started having AirPods where you couldn't, like, and they had their hair down or they had a hood on, they would have AirPods in, and in the hallway I would say, good morning, and they would just keep on walking, and my mind would go to, well, they're rude. And then I realized that half the kids can't hear me because they have these earbuds in. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, of course they don't, they're not being rude to me. Like if they did. So then I just started like waving at them. So even though I knew they couldn't hear me say good morning, I would wave. And a lot of the times the kids would wave and smile or whatever. So I'm like, it's just, there's like so many reasons why somebody might do something. And we shouldn't just take one instance and say, oh, well, that, jumping to the conclusion that, oh, well, this person doesn't even like me. And so just think about all the reasons why, and that are maybe more positive, why something happened. Then there's emotional reasoning. So you allow your feelings to dictate your thoughts about something. So I am being treated badly, so I must be bad. Or my hands are shaking, so that must mean that I can't handle any pressure. Or I must be a loser because no one wants to sit by me. So I feel bad, and so that means everything's bad. And so it's taking your feeling and then making like conclusions based on that feeling. So part of the work that we've been doing is labeling our emotions and challenging negative thoughts. So that works in this same instance too. So if you're feeling bad, think about all the reasons. Okay, what is this emotion? What is it here to tell me? It doesn't necessarily mean anything about the things that are happening to me right now. And then the last one is personalization. And this is when something negative happens, you automatically blame yourself, or you just take everything around you personally. Like every negative thing that happens, oh, well, that's because I'm bad, or they're bad, or they don't like me, or I'm a loser, or whatever. Reframe those situations to focus on individual experiences. So instead of like thinking that everything is your fault, like I do this a lot too. Personalization is probably my worst thought error. Like every time I go somewhere to a place on time, like to meet friends for supper or something, and then if no one's there, I automatically think I got the time wrong. I'm in the wrong place. I don't know what I'm doing. And then people start showing up later, and I should have been thinking, what is the reason maybe that I'm here and they're not here yet? One of them is I'm always early to everything. So of course I'm almost always the first person there or the only one there. So I should think about that. But also, there's traffic issues. People are coming from jobs sometimes, and maybe something happened at their job that made them late. It's not necessarily that I don't know what's going on or I don't know the time, but that things happen and that people don't get to places on time sometimes, and that's okay. And every time something goes wrong, I shouldn't be taking it personally. Or if someone gets upset about something, or if someone is acting upset and I'm around them, that doesn't mean I'm the reason why they're upset. Now, sometimes you might be, I don't know, but always thinking that it's about you or something you've done is not helpful. And it just makes you feel like something's wrong with you and you're bad. And it's like, see how this can be just like this vicious cycle? So I just want you to be aware of what thought errors are going on. What are they and what do they look like? And then how to counter them. And then the other way to redirect is also using those healthy distractions. And that episode, I had a way for you to, there was a worksheet where you had examples of all 4 different kinds of healthy distractions, and then you picked some that you were going to follow. Well, so use that to distract yourself from this. But then I also want you to really think about these thought errors and how often you're using 1 or 2 of them. So I've created a journal with prompts to help you rethink any of these 6 thought errors. So the journal has the 6 thought errors in it, and then it asks you questions to counter them. And so when you write that out, it helps you to kind of rethink how those thought errors can be seen differently so that they're not so negative. So go to my show notes and get a copy of that journal where you can figure out how to counter the 6 thought errors that are from this episode. There are other thought errors, and you can Google other ways to go about that. But I think this journal is really fun. So go to my show notes, get that journal so that you can start reworking and rewiring those thoughts. And I'll talk to you soon.